Hello, you wonderful individual, or indeed group, huddled around the wireless on a Saturday or evening or morning, or whatever it is you choose to listen. You are currently tuned in to Out of the Broom Cupboard. I'm Chris Yonko Johnson. Those of a certain age may recognise me as that bloke in the CBBC office who used to sit next to Hacker. But more often than not, over the course of my 4 to 6 years, based on, if you count out Saturday's presentation, I was paired up with Warrick Brownlow-Pike. Warrick is a puppeteer who played the role of Oucho T. Cactus opposite Ed Petrie, and also currently is Dodge T. Dog, who I presented with on CBBC, who now is a puppet presenter on CBeebies. Warrick has done so many things over the course of his 10-plus year career now, going on 15 years. Congratulations, Warrick. Consistency in employment. It's a rare thing. In fact, you can catch his most recent work on the CBeebies channel as Dodge the Dog, but also puppeteering for the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance on Netflix. Warrick is also a current cast member of Sesame Street, playing the role of Gonger. And when the show begins, you'll hear us having a little chat about Gonger's beginnings and what led to his and Cookie Monster's food truck segments on Sesame Street, which we also go into greater detail about later in the episode. Now, if you want to get some exclusive video content of Warrick getting up to shenanigans, we did some sketches and some interview stuff, you need to become a top tier patron on patreon.com/OOTBC. For those who are already donating, I'm incredibly grateful. For those who have yet to donate, hey, don't worry about it. You're under no pressure. But if you do, I love you forever. You'll get a bunch of lovely perks too. Without further ado, sit back, relax, and pop a puppet on it. It's Out of the Broom Cupboard. What I love about this is it feels like a natural evolution of an idea you've always wanted to do, in a way. In an alternate dimension, Gonger is Dodge, and Cookie Monster's Rusty Lee. Because you're not like a big chef, are you? You're not like a huge, passionate... Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not a passion directly. No, but I think you've always loved the idea of a puppet in the kitchen.
I've always loved the idea of Rusty Lee.
You just love Rusty Lee. Yeah. It's true though, isn't it?
I've been thinking about Food Show forever. This happened to me so many times in life where...
It's a good set for a puppet character in general. Yeah.
I've always... This happened to me like I've thought about something like that, right? Mm-hmm. Come up with it. It's not happened, but it has happened in a different guise soon after. Just before I came to Prez, before me and Phil were in Prez,
yeah,
I designed a chicken in a coop,
yeah,
chicken run-esque, and we were going to pitch that as Channel 5 Prez. Mornings in Prez.
Yeah.
A chicken puppet. And then CBBC Prez came along.
Also, it would have been like a milkshake for the older kids.
Just, I don't know what it was. I can't remember, but it was milkshake kids presentation. Chicken in a coop. You send emails, he reads them out.
That's true.
You enjoy it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, before you know it, CBBC came along, so...
this Cactus.
I'd planned it, though.
Yeah.
And then it happened... It was happening already.
Can you plan for me to accidentally find a lottery ticket that's got like £3 million on it?
It's funny, isn't it?
Well, it's weird how things fall into place sometimes. In general,
yeah.
I think especially in the creative arts, because you don't really know. Nothing's ever a dead cert.
No.
But I think as long as you're driven onto something, eventually it will manifest in some way.
I kind of believe in like cosmically ordering stuff as well.
Cosmic order.
Yeah, do you?
I mean, yeah,
cosmically
to a degree.
Ordering, though.
Yeah,
putting it out there, like I want to do this.
To a degree, I think it's a good motivator to give yourself a goal in that way. But I know what you mean. You sort of like you put it out to the universe,
and also the people around you. So people now know that this is what you're planning and want. So eventually, it gets to the right person, I suppose. Well,
it's like I've always wanted to sit down with my contemporaries and colleagues and friends from the world of kids entertainment and talk about it. And here we are in Out of the Broom Cupboard, episode 4. Hello, everybody. How are you doing?
Official.
We don't know. It was a little bit official. I sort of hoodwinked you into a conversation about cosmic coincidences. Yeah. But it's true because like it's cosmic coincidence and the idea of putting stuff out there led to us working together and me getting to meet you, because we should never have been a double act.
No, we wouldn't have.
But we were.
a couple of times in a row. Yeah. And it all began with me stealing your job. Sort of. I'm Chris Johnson. You heard me in the introduction talking nonsense and telling you when the ad break's going to be and all that. But I am sat down with a lovely man and a lovely woman and a lovely being of cosmic proportions. I'm sat with Mr. Warrick Brownlow-Pike. Say hello to the people at home. Know you're real.
Hello, everybody. I am real, and thanks for having me.
And that was a pleasure. Thank you for having me in your lovely living room with several pairs of eyes staring at us from another piece of furniture, which is quite nice. We can't really say who, because you've got to be a top-tier patron to find out who's staring at us to watch the video. So there's my plug.
But there are eyes in the room.
But there are several people in here who make me feel warm inside. Yourself included.
I'm not sure if they're people.
Good entities. I'm so chuffed to finally get to sit down with you to do this for two reasons. One, I've not seen you in donkeys, so it's lovely to see you. It's been a while. You're a very busy man.
I've been very
You're
busy.
a very busy man and Muppet, and you know you're all over the shop.
Yeah.
In every possible way, but also just because we got a very nice response to our first episode of Broom Cupboard, which was another puppeteer, shall we say.
Good. I enjoyed it very much.
Difference being, as I've always said about with yourself and Mr. Phil Fletcher, the difference between you two in your styles, to me, has always been about approach, if that makes any sense. You are both two of the strongest performers I've ever worked with in any medium on anything, because you have a dedication and a passion for it.
Yeah.
But I've always marked Phil down as he's more a performer who does it through puppets.
Yeah.
You are a craft puppeteer.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You are the guy who, if it comes to like, right, we need somebody, and if Phil's listening to this, he's going to shut. No, honestly, Phil, you're a turn. Warwick's the guy who, if they need somebody to create a creature or bring something to life on any medium, be it stage, be it on film, and of course television, you're the guy I'd go to.
Yeah, thanks.
Because you know, like, you know, this is going to be the next hour. It's just going to be me blowing your trumpet. I hope you don't mind. But it's true. Like you are somebody who comes at this profession, and especially kids' entertainment, as well as a byproduct of that, and the path it's led you down, with a degree of love for this style of performing.
Well, for the art, I have a big love and
big love,
respect for the art of puppetry, and I'd like to push it and see what we can do with it, and not do the same things over and over again. So that's what I try and do, I think
that definitely bleeds through. And we'll get onto, obviously, certain characters as we go by. And there's sort of one character in particular that very much, like, needed an entire sensibility to be created for that character to work, and a commitment for that character to work, so much so that, like, an almost entire new language was created for that character to work.
It was, yeah.
We'll get into that, but what I want to know is, young Sir Warrick, what's your earliest memory of puppets, if need be, but like wanting to perform?
Well, like I've said this a lot really, but my earliest memory of puppet related memory is watching the Muppet Show. Yeah. Being sat in front of the TV in 87, I suppose, 88, watching the Muppet Show, so 2 or 3 years old. And we have photographs of me at that age, possibly younger, with puppets that had been bought for me. So I was just into them. I suppose I was always into the idea of bringing something else to life. You do that as a kid anyway.
Yeah, like the action figure toy, like adventures.
Exactly, but it just so happened that I had those kind of things you could put your hand inside and make them people, make them be characters. So it was definitely the Muppet Show.
That's why we never allowed any pets.
Yeah, we had a dog, actually. We had a dog, but I didn't like her.
Because every time you tried to put your hand in her head, she was like, "Get off me! What's wrong with you?"
She didn't like me, I didn't like her.
Stop putting strings on my paws.
So it was the Muppets and the Muppet Show, specifically the Muppet Show. I remember the Muppet Show coming on, we recorded it, and I just wore the tapes out. I loved it.
So this is, where is this?
Where in the world?
Yeah.
It's me in East London, in our place, and my mum would have been there too. She'd have been busy doing something, so she put me in front of the telly. And then
Muppet Show's in syndication by now, I guess.
BBC One, the Muppet Show was on in repeats. And so she taped it for me. We had a tape. We had Julie Andrews, Muppet Show, Lena Horne, Harry Belafonte, Cheryl Ladd. And I watched them religiously. Yeah. I know them backwards.
Pretty impressive, to still remember the exact route. But I guess you were bitten, I suppose, by that point, by the bug of it.
I was in. By the time that first episode was through, I was lock, stock and barrel done. For life I was in. I was a fully paid up member.
You're like, I will be on equity doing puppets.
Like pretty soon after that,
do the paperwork
around that time. I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. I want to do the Muppets. And whenever anybody asked me from that age on, I said I'm a puppeteer. I didn't even say I want to be a puppeteer. I said I'm a puppeteer. I was a puppeteer.
Hello, I'm Warrick, Puppeteers. Like, you're seven. I just asked you to pay for the milk.
Yeah, my school books are full of drawings of puppets and designs and all that kind of thing. And I was always doing it. And then every Christmas I'd get a puppet for Christmas or my birthday. It'd be something puppet related.
Yeah.
And they bought me the Muppet puppets. They bought me a Punch and Judy booth. Well, they had, my uncle was a carpenter. They had him make me a Punch and Judy booth. Mm. We lived in a flat. I mean, there's no room for a Punch and Judy booth in a flat, but that's what they did. They were dedicated. So my parents had that happen. They painted it up and had my name painted on it and stuff. Had curtains.
So you had your own chance to be like, well, I'm going to have a show.
Yeah,
Please episode. Yeah. Were there any you like to emulate when you were that young? Were there any specific characters, or was it just you wanted to have a go at everybody?
I just had a go at everybody. I'd try and do the voices of all the characters. I have pictures of me with my Cookie Monster puppet when I was probably 4, and now I'm Cookie Monster's friend.
Just hanging out.
Yeah,
it's like he's a contemporary and a colleague now.
Yeah,
he's got on speed dial.
But I like Jim's characters, Kermit and Ernie, Rolf, and those are the ones that puppets off too.
What drew you to Jim's more, do you think?
I don't know, they're quite soulful, aren't they? And they're quite real. They're real people. Like, Rolf would be a nice friend to have. He'd be a nice guy. Ernie's a good fun friend.
Yeah.
They're nice guys.
And you mean the sort of characters you watch and you go like, I'd have a hypothetical beer with that puppet.
Yeah.
I would sit down.
With Rolf you would. I mean, with like...
Well, Rolf you definitely would.
With
some kind of
Fozzie's
30s themed speakeasy. Tinkling away on the piano.
But like, Frank Oz is a genius. I love his characters. But Fozzie's needy. Miss Piggy's hard work.
Yeah.
Gonzo's weird. By Dave Goals.
You never thought of it that way, really. You said that like, a lot of the cast members who created that, you know, original kind of big lineup of the characters, that certain are caricaturish in certain ways, whereas Jim's do have more of a grounded feel to them. It's funny you should say that, because I feel that Dodge in particular has that vibe about him.
Oh, thanks.
You can kind of see that in his DNA. Even when he first shows up and he's a bit more of a wheeler dealer and a bit of a bit of a geezer keeping his distance, they're still like they kind of with that was more the sort of the typical Cockney warmth, you know, the ragamuffin with the twinkle in his eye vibe.
But we changed that.
Yeah, over time he sort of warmed up to his surroundings and that changed him.
I remember the point where I thought over a weekend I was like, I need to make the voice higher. I need to make him hewer. And I think like he went home on the Friday night as a Cockney geezer and came back in on the Monday as...
He was bitten by a radioactive teddy bear.
Yeah,
he just came back all sweet and
like
lovely.
10 years younger, voice high.
Well, it was a smart call, I think, because puppets, as we were saying then, like with sort of Frank's characters and everything, when you have a big cast of puppet characters, obviously the Muppets is like the go-to for that setting, and Sesame Street before it, and Long May It Rain. But like, it is very much about creating personalities that you want to spend time with.
Yeah.
But still keeping the core archetype of that of the character to begin with. You want the familiar.
Well, they've also got to be enjoyable to watch and not annoying, and that's how characters like Hacker and Dodge hopefully have lasted so long.
Yeah,
you don't really get annoyed by them that much.
Well, that and you guys know where all their bodies are buried, so they have to keep you around. That's not true. They're not bodies per se. I think that's why characters like the Muppets worked in, say, the Muppet movie, which I think was, after Christmas Carol, was my first exposure to that world, like getting that on VHS. It doesn't seem like a logical leap to take characters like that who are for the variety show format and put them in an hour and a half narrative, like this, that and the other. But it definitely worked, and worked for them so well they did it like, 10, 11 more times over the course of a few decades.
Yeah, because those characters are so well developed. They've been by that point. Those characters had been around for 20 odd years.
Yeah,
you know, most of them started in 76. Kermit started in 55. So by the 90s, they could be characters that played other characters.
Yeah,
and pull it off.
That's true. They're sort of actors in their own right.
Yeah,
to that point.
Yeah,
but again, still the traits showing through.
Yeah.
Again, I think that's something that you understand really well, to the point where it's just part of your DNA. The idea of them being a fully fledged personality that can carry through whatever setting they're put in. Yeah.
To me, they're just people. And like, you know me, I know them inside out. And I've performed lots of them sometimes for for things when you have to double up for somebody. Yeah, to me, I just still think of them as people. Like I was watching Kermit the other day, and I was like, I do like Kermit. I like that man.
He's a lovely man.
That was the thought that came into my head. I just like Kermit.
He's a lovely fella.
Yeah.
Just off the top of your head, how many of the OG Muppets that you can think of, stroke, are allowed to say, have you had a hand in, literally?
Well, so when we're doing something like a Muppet movie, Muppet's Most Wanted movie, lots of puppeteers have lots of characters. So when they are doing the character that is a lead in that scene, you will have to double up for somebody else's character.
Yeah.
For instance, if the man who does Miss Piggy, Eric, is doing Piggy in the scene, and Fozzie is also in the scene, and Animal's in the scene, and Sam the Eagle's in the scene, you need 3 other puppeteers to double up on those characters that aren't the feature. So I would do that kind of thing on projects like a Muppet movie or for the Muppet Show characters when they come to England and stuff. And I mean, throughout that, I did most of them.
Yeah. So you've had a hand in, say, like Fozzie, Animal. I was going to say, have you touched Animal?
Yeah, it kind of feels,
which sounds criminal in a way.
It feels a bit dirty saying it because they are characters. You know, they're not like they're like I said, they're people.
They're not a prop
to me. Yeah. So,
but a fair few of that OG cast.
Yeah, you just need the manpower.
How do you think 6-year-old Warrick would respond knowing
lose his mind?
Yeah.
I'm glad I never knew this stuff was going to happen to me because I would have just lost my mind. But I always kind of believed it would. Blind faith and stuff. I always.
Well, as you were saying at the beginning, like
that's what was
you
going to
put
happen.
something out there. You did it as a kid. Like even as a kid, you went, "I'm a puppeteer."
Yeah.
You were like, "That's what I am.
I'm going to work for the Muppets." Yeah.
That's what I'm going to do.
I remember telling somebody in school, "I'm going to work with the Muppets," and they were just like, they were just looked at me thinking, "What the hell are you saying? I don't know what you're saying to me." And I was just happy to be saying it.
Yeah.
I didn't really need a reaction. I was just telling them the facts.
So was there a game plan as you got a bit older? Did you get to a point where you were like, I'm gonna do this, and this is how I'm gonna get in there, or was it still more a passion that was either side of real life kind of? Not to say the puppeteering isn't real life, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it wasn't the day job. It wasn't the day job yet.
Yeah, yeah. Like I had jobs as a kid and stuff, but it wasn't until I had no plan of how to get into puppetry because that wasn't a thing. I didn't know any puppeteers. I knew of the famous puppeteers to me, who were the ones who were professionals in the movies and TV shows, but I didn't know any puppeteers. So there was never a plan of, that's what you do. You go to this place and he tells you to go to there and she tells you this and then you start work on the Monday.
Yeah.
That wasn't at work. So one day in my teens, it just occurred to me, late teens, it occurred to me, Google puppeteer audition. So I did it. And there was an audition for CVBs and I got the job as a puppeteer assistant.
Yeah.
And the rest is history. And I've been there ever since.
So you sort out work? Like,
I just went looking
be
for
it a job or just to see what was out in there?
Well, I Googled with the intention to find an audition.
You found an audition?
To get a job. I found an audition and got the job.
Yeah.
And I've been working ever since.
What was that first job?
Space Pirates for CBeebies.
CBeebies.
And I was an assistant to a puppeteer called Sarah Burgess. There were these 3 singing rats. You can see them on my YouTube channel. And I was the hands of the piano playing rat.
Okay.
Basically.
So it was live hand?
No, it was rodded hands.
Rodded hand.
But she was singing and playing the piano. And that's what will often happen. You'll start as an assistant doing hands and blinks and whatever else needs doing for the lead performer for a few years. Just to learn the ropes.
Yeah.
To learn things. And you should, by that point, you should be working on your lip sync and your characters.
Because you were playing with puppets and developing a style and everything already up to that point.
I'd had that. The lip sync was in the bag.
Yeah.
It wasn't refined, but it was
something you'd been practicing.
I'd been practicing for a good 15 years, 20 years.
Were you making puppets before this point?
I was also making puppets up until then, yeah. And they take a long time to make.
It's not, especially like, again, if you're fitting it in free time and everything. I
just got too busy to be making puppets anymore. But I always design puppets, and other people make them for me.
Oh yeah, you are one of the best, like sort of from like mind to page like designers I can think of. Like you can sit there and be like, it's something like, I'm thinking it's kind of like a frog, and you'll just start drawing it while you're talking, and within 2 minutes there's a sketch. And it's like, oh my god, what? That's a puppet already, right? You're like, no, but like something like that. You're like, wait, what? okay, because it looks so.
Yeah.
It's a thing that like anyone who ever draws hears and they get a bit sick of it. I know I did. When people are sort of like, "Did you do that from memory?" It's like, well, yeah, that's how drawing works. You think of a thing, but you create a character like almost on the spot.
I've always been a confident artist too.
You're a brilliant artist. You're a really good cartoonist.
My opinion with art is, you can't get it wrong. If you are doing it, it's your art. You can't get it wrong. Whereas I think lots of people think when they're drawing something, they've got it wrong.
I wish I could draw like you.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you don't.
You draw like you.
Draw like you.
So you don't have to cross things out, and just if you've made a mistake, just pretend it's not a mistake. Just don't say it's a mistake, and then it's not a mistake. Adapt it and carry on with it. So that's what I think. So that's what I think about art, Chris.
That's what I think about art. That's my critique on art.
I don't know where I was going on with that.
But it's a visual style. It's something that you're on top of, that you've self-taught, and then you're in that professional environment. Did anything hit you on Space Pirates where you're like, oh cripes, like I didn't even think about that. That was something I'd never considered. Or were you sort of
not really,
well
because I'd read
rehearsed
all
and well
the
read?
books.
Yeah,
I'd watched all the documentaries. I knew what was going down. I knew it already.
You knew what was going down in Puppet Town.
But the sheer joy of being there doing it was just immense. It was lovely. It's great. I still have that joy now every day.
Yeah.
When I do it, and I still love like the smells of it, the smells of the studios.
Yes. Yeah.
And the paraphernalia that goes with it, and the lights, showbiz. I just like all the stuff. And the people.
There's a reason it's like a stereotype of TV and film stuff. It's like the show with the bright lights about this, because like it is there, and when you see it, it's like, oh, I'm doing this to earn money today.
Yeah, and the magic,
this is kind of cool.
Yeah, the magic that happens, like it's all messing around and it's free and easy, and then
people bringing in new costumes for your character. And like, oh right, how do we do this?
But then they hit record and it all comes together and it's a lovely thing.
So
it goes out there.
Well, so Space Pirates goes out. I'm assuming
it doesn't go out anywhere anymore.
No, I mean at the time.
Oh, was that
going back in time?
It was on CBeebies and it was nominated for some awards and stuff, and I think it was like aired around the world too. So it's quite a big deal for me.
How long between making Space Pirates and the next job?
So I don't know how long, but that started in like the June of 2007, July, and we ran that. We did rehearsals at Elstree Studios, where the Muppet Show was shot.
I was going to say, like, I bet you were like, so, wait, where? Where are we meeting?
Puppet Mecca for someone like me. Like, I visit it whenever I can.
Yeah.
I was there a couple of months ago just to go and look at Studio D and, like, say thank you.
Just have a peer.
Yeah. And it's so funny. So also on that show were other puppeteers. I was assisting Sarah Burgess, a lady named Yvonne Stone who made the puppets was assisting Brian Herring, and a puppeteer called Will Banyard was assisting Dave Chapman. Dave Chapman was Otis the Aardvark on CBBC presentation when I was growing up.
Yeah.
One day...
We were the same generation in terms of when we were watching.
So one day I wrote in as a kid to CBBC. They said, what are you obsessed with? And I wrote in and I said, I'm obsessed with puppets. And so Dave called me up. Now Dave says he never called anybody up.
Yeah.
But this kid wrote in about puppets, and Dave also loves puppets. And he's a puppeteer.
It was obviously that uncommon a phenomenon that he was like, right, let's respond to this.
There's a kid who likes what I'm into, so he called me up and he just had a lovely chat about puppets with me, and that was I was for the first time speaking to a puppeteer, a British puppeteer,
which people I don't think people appreciate kind of how rare it is as a profession in terms of the sort of work you're doing and how often and how many people are in there. It's the same as like the voice acting community. A large portion of it is the same 40 individuals in Los Angeles. Like that's kind of it.
And that's what it was. They were all always American.
Yeah, and there's East Coast majorities. Like New York seems to be a big base for like Henson Group and everything. We're working on Sesame and everything. So it was quite a rare thing. And I think Children's BBC as it was then, it hadn't quite got the acronym yet. Like Otis was the latest in a line.
It was almost a British Muppet character.
It was so British, which is hilarious. It was an aardvark. It's not the most British thing off the top of your head.
But it was made by one of the Henson performers, so it had that Muppet quality to it. And,
he's a gorgeous design, isn't he?
It's great. So he called me back and we discussed puppets, and then that was it. And then there were some years there between where I didn't interact with him and that anymore, but I'd managed to meet the Muppet performers, the premieres and stuff. So that completely blew my mind.
Of course, because like you're a Muppet super fan in the
Yeah.
decade of Christmas Carol,
and
Treasure Island.
So I got to go to the premieres of those and meet all those puppeteers.
Yeah.
Like, my little brain was exploding. So then we jump forward again to Space Pirates. And I come in the room and Dave says, Warrick Brownlow-Pike. I was like, yeah. And he goes, I spoke to you on the phone when you were like 10. And I was like, God, yeah, you did. And I'd forgotten that.
Because it suddenly hit you.
Because
like, oh my God.
like soon after that, I'd met my heroes.
Yeah.
So meeting Puppeteers then, it just all kind of merged into a big thing. And he was like, how could I forget your name? And yeah, and then we've been friends ever since because we have such similar interests. And so the people at CBBC said, we want another puppet presentation. Will you come back and do it to Dave? And Dave had already done his stint.
Because Otis has been on like, what, 7-8 years?
It's 5 or 6 years.
5 or 6. Why did I think
Maybe
it was
it was
longer?
7.
Did he pop up in shows for a time
A few
as
shows
well?
too.
Yeah, okay, that'll be why.
And Dave felt like he'd done his time there, so on presentation. So he said, no, I don't want to do it, but this guy should do it.
Yes, nice.
And that was me. I was the noob kid.
But again, like he'd seen your drive and your passion for it, and that alone, like going back to putting it out into the universe, you'd done that, and he'd gone like, well, this guy, like, have a talk with him. Was it an immediate casting, or was there an audition process?
There was first an interview.
Okay.
Of sorts.
Oh, very formal.
Of sorts.
Yeah.
Which was in a pub in Soho.
Oh, it's not so formal.
Upstairs. And there was like a family gathering or something on the tables next to us. It was very loud and noisy. And Joe Mace and Guy Lambert, who Joe's now the head of ITV Light Entertainment, and Guy was our producer eventually for Ed and Oucho. They said, so what do you think? I'd done a whole couple of pages of drawings.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be a plant and a cactus that they'd seen before, so I did loads of drawings and stuff.
So behind the scenes, that I guess by this point they'd conceived the CBBC office was going to be the new
away
thing.
from me, they had decided it would be an office. There'd be a male presenter. I think they had Ed by that point, and they knew that their puppet was going to be
the late Ed
a desk
Petrie.
plant.
He's not dead. He's just not here.
He's just not here yet.
Yeah,
he will arrive any moment now. Then it was going to be a desk plant. So I did loads of designs. I didn't know that Neil Sterenberg was already designing and building a fantastic puppet.
Yeah,
which would eventually be for me. So they said, okay, what would you do? This thing doesn't speak English. What would you do? And in the pub, I was just like, oh, well, you'd probably be like this. And or something like that.
And this family gathering suddenly moved one table down.
Yeah, and they said, oh, okay, cheers, all right, thanks for coming then, mate. And that was that. And then a little while later, I heard...
Did you feel like you'd oversold? Or...
I just didn't know what had happened, really. I was just happy to be involved.
Aww.
And a little while later, they must have had me back in to audition with a puppet. A mock-up, because I have that video. So there's just me under the table,
So you're one
and
of
you
the
can
few
see
people.
my eyes.
So you're one of the few people who sort of keeps those sorts of... Unless, of course, you've tried to burn it.
Well, I found it. It was going to be thrown out, so I kept it.
Oh, no, I found it. I found mine when there was that big DigiClear out in 2011, and I was like, I'm going to let this be thrown out.
Yeah. Well,
I don't ever want to see this.
Although
I think I've got it on a VHS somewhere, but I daren't
found
do it
an old
myself.
TV at TV Centre with a video, one of those old ones with a video player in it.
Yeah.
2-in-1. And I was going to watch something on a video. So I ejected the video, and the video that was in there was my audition tape.
Oh, damn.
I had found this television and plugged it in on my desk.
So your audition tape was probably the last thing to have been watched on that telly before it got put
and this
in
was
the
like
storage
6 years
cupboard.
after I started or something.
Funny.
So I just kept it in my desk, and then when these towers being emptied out to knock down, I took it with me. So I did the audition then, and other people had auditioned as well, and eventually I got the job. And I can't remember when I started, but it must have been like August time.
Yeah.
We went on air September the 3rd, 2007.
Yeah, you would have had a sort of warm up period.
There was a long time.
Pre-records.
We went away for the couple of days and tried to figure everything out. And
were you guys
characters and
live
props.
immediately, or
I think we were live, yeah, straight away.
damn,
First day, yeah.
that's big. But I suppose you guys were the
It was a rebrand.
Yeah, you guys were the lead presenters
Yeah.
of the rebrand that was now the CBBC office. And of course, for those who haven't figured out who we're talking about already, that's how I was going to sort of lead in, but the more we talk, the more I was like, have I mentioned it? It's obviously Oucho the Cactus we're talking about.
Yeah.
so many of you listening, I imagine, would have heard those noises Warrick made a moment ago and just sort of bricked yourself with joy, because like it makes me happy to like think of him. And I wasn't a kid of the Oucho generation. Like Oucho was 2007, 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
Presentation and shows, which we'll get into. But like I wasn't an kid of the Oucho generation, but I knew full well who Oucho was.
Yeah.
Because that was how much of an impact that rebrand made.
It's funny that it kind of made such an impact and got out there.
Well, it was new and different. Because like
it was new and different, but it was a harking back to the original Broom Cupboard.
Yeah, that was the thing, and right down to because the first set was in TC9.
Ours.
Yeah.
It was in TC12.
TC12, sorry, not TC9.
Yeah.
But again, it was a smaller
It was a
set.
very small room, yeah.
And it got even more Broom Cupboard-esque as time went by because it moved into...
Actually went back into a Broom Cupboard.
Was it EM20? Or was it the office?
PR1.
PR1. Was EM20 the office floor?
Was the office, the
one.
mezzanine office floor, yeah.
But like PR1 was, again, it was, oh yeah, this is the studio for children's presentation. And it was basically an editing suite, like cupboard space. Like there was no tech in there. They'd crammed a set and some
back
tripods.
to the good old days of being in an actual Broom Cupboard.
And I think that was probably why Ed and Oucho hit within British pop culture at that time, because it was that flashback kind of style. But it was also a level of bizarre, surreal anarchy that sort of everyone always assumes. Everyone always says, "Oh, kids' TV, oh, it's all mad and crazy." And it's like, isn't always though. It's usually quite vanilla and sanitary.
Yeah.
This really wasn't. Like Ed and Oucho was odd from the beginning.
People making it. All of the people there had like obsessions and stuff in other things. Like I have my obsession with the Muppets and that kind of thing. And Guy the producer has his obsession with Doctor Who, and Ed has his obsession with that kind of off the wall comedy and Python-y stuff. And the art department were great at doing those weird things.
Yeah.
And the researchers were great at just finding like weird music or weird images or finding a guest that was good to do this particular thing.
Yeah.
Everybody was just like, and they always are, but it's just the right group of people.
You find that, again, it's that thing about passion, like driving the project itself, and these guys obviously all clicked in a way.
It was fun. Like we knew that we could kind of get away with stuff, and it was fun.
Describe to the human beings listening to this how you performed Oucho, and by that I mean what was your physical setup? Because puppets of this style, like traditionally, when you're out and about, or in ground floor style sets that don't have different layers and everything, it's lay on a trolley or put in a certain position or sat with a prop.
Initially, I was just sat kind of L-shaped.
Yeah,
with my legs out in front of me.
Because Oucho had the unique thing of being a puppet who was in situ, like he's a plant pot on the desk.
The pot is stuck to the desk.
Yeah,
Oucho can pop out, but the pot is stuck to the desk.
Yeah.
And there's a hole in the desk.
Yeah.
So I'm not behind the desk, which is quite comfortable. I'm under the desk, coming up through the desk, which is quite painful. Oh,
I mean, I remember the desk that was in PR1, like that was a tight corner.
Curve, yeah.
It was a very small pocket.
So you've got to get a 6-foot man under there. And then it's quite limiting in what you can do. You can't turn to your left. Watch any of those things. You can't. If I do, I'm probably taking my hand out of the puppet's head and twisting the whole body around.
Yeah.
And just hoping that it doesn't look bad.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't turn to your left, you can mostly look straight ahead, which is along the desk, to me, to where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
Neutral is straight along the desk to the wall. Looking to the left is looking down the lens of the wide shot.
Yeah.
And that's about what you can do. But all that being so limited and not being able to talk adds to the frustration, feeds into the character.
Well, he's an angry character.
And that's why he's so cantankerous and he's so like jaded and just through with it because it's hard for me. And I can't walk around as a human letting that out to people, so it comes through in the character.
So you kind of used Oucho as a vessel for frustration
therapy, yeah.
Therapy where you got to swear without ever swearing. Really.
Swear in a different language.
Swear in a different language.
A language that only I understood.
How did you and Ed get on at first?
We're not similar.
No.
At all.
No.
Different backgrounds completely. And I think, I don't know what he thought of me. He probably thought, who's this kind of kid off the streets? But I just thought, oh, this guy is so like square.
Ed is such a wonderful anomaly because his on-camera persona, especially for kids' entertainment, and whenever he's like doing stand-up or comparing, so it's very, very again. It's almost like this mix of angry, quirky. Sort of like he can be this joyous thing, but immediately turn on a dime to be quite sarcastic or whatever. Ed in real life is so quiet in comparison. We're recording these out of order. You guys will have already heard the Ed Petrie episode of
good.
Out of the Broom Cupboard.
I've called him square after.
Yes.
So he can't react to this. That's good.
But do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm interested to see what Ed's going to be like when I sit down with him. Because
I wonder what he thought about me. He must have thought we just need to get.
It was this weird trendy
we need to
upstart.
get a professional in, an adult. Like somebody who dresses properly, and I just can't imagine what he thought of me. But I just thought like you think of a kid's. Remember, I'm still new at this point.
Yeah,
so I think
this is your second professional gig.
Yeah, and the first thing was just puppets. Mm-hmm. My portion of it was just puppets, so I didn't interact with the humans of the show. So I thought that they'd be as wacky as they are on camera.
Yeah.
So when he was quiet and professional, and would concentrate on his lines and stuff.
Ed's
I didn't expect it. I mean, I love him to bits, and he's great, and he's fantastic.
Yeah.
But
whenever you two get together now, it's always really fun to see.
But
like whenever you two hang out together, it's always like, oh, look at him there, because you went through this thing together.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. He's a juxtaposition. Ed, I think Ed and Oucho, a big part of why it worked too was Ed's approach, because though he was a stand-up and everything, he definitely approaches everything from the point of view of an actor, which I don't think had been done on Prez before that point at CBBC presentation.
That's probably true. Yeah.
It was CBBC is sort of this weird visual disc jockey job, essentially. Yeah. Sometimes with walking around in games, sometimes with guests coming in this, that and the other, and other times it's with a person and a puppet. Ed and...
It has been a presenter job, mostly.
Oh, yeah.
In the history of it, it's been a presenter's job.
Yeah. But it's the style has always lent more to... Like, you could not look at the links on CBBC and listen to it, and it kind of has that radio feel. Yeah. Whereas for the first time, when you guys are doing it, it was a show.
It's a sitcom.
Yeah.
It's a broken up sitcom.
It's a creepy, kooky sketch show sitcom vibe, because you had things like the time vortex in the cupboard, so it would crap out like guests, comedy actors playing characters.
And we had like the hamster.
Yeah, the shredder hamster.
That wanted to take over the world.
I'm asking you about this because I've got to get it on record. When you first were introduced to that concept, or first got to do a link of the hamster and specifically shredder time, what was your feeling the first time? Because for those who don't know, there was a regular item for Ed and Oucho, and we sort of carried it on a bit, and was Ed and Chris and Dodge.
Yeah. So the hamster lived in a hamster cage.
Yeah. And
he would run around the wheel, which would then work the shredder.
Yeah.
So we'd take the kids' artwork that they sent in and shred it.
Yeah.
Live on it.
Which was
we're not allowed to do
sacrilege.
Anymore. But the kids sent their artwork into the shredder.
Because
this is for the shredder. I want this to be shredded. They loved seeing their artwork.
They poured time and effort into it all the while, but they did it because they
ran out
knew.
all of their felt tip pens, knowing that this artwork would be shredded.
If they did the best artwork they could do, they did that because they knew eventually it would get picked and get shredded on television.
Look at that Banksy piece of artwork recently.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is it a Banksy piece? It shreds.
The one the person bought it, and then it immediately got shredded.
It shreds, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if Banksy was inspired by the shredder.
He was a fan. The first time I did the hamster.
Yeah.
My feelings were of absolute fear and dread, because it was the first English speaking character I had done on television.
Right, that's true, yeah.
And I hadn't considered that it would be British. It was going to be American to me, because any puppet that speaks is American.
That's true, because at that point all your inspirations were very much the Muppet and kind of
puppets.
The angle.
To me, puppets sounded American. The best puppet sounded American.
Or an American performer doing a British accent, maybe in a pirate-themed Muppet film.
So when it came to doing it, I was sat there. Puppet was up in the air. We were like rehearsing it, and I was like, "Oh no, I hadn't thought about this. I hadn't considered that it's going to be British. I don't know what this guy is going to sound like for the first time." And then in my ear, I had the gallery, 5 or 6 people in there, shouting out what it should be. It should be Irish. No, it should be from Cornwall. No, it should definitely be from Glasgow. And I was just thinking, I've not planned for this. I can't do any of those accents well. I can't.
Or at least like you hadn't practiced enough to know you could give it a stab.
Well, I wasn't confident enough to think I could do them and make them funny either. At that point, I knew that I could do Oucho. and I was confident in doing that, but I wasn't confident enough to say no. I don't think I can do that.
Yeah, because at this point you're like, I'm the new kid on the block here. Like, do I? Is it a step out of line if I say I can't do that? It was
completely terrifying to me that day.
I think present day Warrick would go, I've already signed the contract. I'm going to tell him I can't do that.
Well, I'm more confident in what I can and can't do. And I would probably say, well, actually, I think someone else is better at doing that than I am.
Yeah, like if you were like, you want that, that's not my thing, but such a body can do that.
But I can do all of these things.
Yeah.
Or I would plan for it. If they want it to be Irish, fine, I'll go away for a week and I'll come back fully equipped for it to be Irish.
Yeah.
I didn't know that 6 people would be shouting out different kind of accents.
Do it like Barry White. Do it like this. He's like, my God, what?
I didn't know there would be that kind of heckling going on at such early doors.
So what made you settle on? Because the hamster, if I remember correctly, had a very sort of like gruff Cockney kind of drawl.
The idea was that
he
was murderous. He was going to take over the world. So I thought that's eventually I came up with this is how he would sound.
It's like the sort of Guy Ritchie gangster kind of approach.
Yeah, exactly.
Like he's a violent man.
Yeah, a very, very, very tiny violent creature.
Yeah. Because that was, of course, the reveal, wasn't it? It was all these close-up VTs of him, plotting to destroy everybody.
And then you cut to the wide and he's squeaking.
It's just this little thing, yeah. So I suppose it was a natural juxtaposition emerged with that one, like talking like this to... Sort of
but I always loved that idea, and that's the sitcom-y thing, really, of it being, there's a hamster over there and he does something, and there's something over here that does... There was at one point, Oucho went fishing, and he had a worm to fish with, but he swallowed the worm. Do you remember that?
I'm not familiar with this one, actually.
It's a blue worm.
I think I've seen the puppet.
We had a blue worm puppet.
Yeah.
And we had the set that we built was the inside of Oucho's belly. And it was almost like a pumpkin. Imagine the inside of a pumpkin, but green.
Oh, that's
And there were drippy sound effects and stuff. And this poor one would sing about being so lonely, because that's when that hit was out. Lonely.
Oh, Akon, yeah.
And so there was that character that we
always current.
Went to.
Always current.
And there was a pigeon that lived up in the air conditioning unit.
Yeah, I remember that one.
There were some others, I think.
But that was nice because at this point you're essentially a one-man Muppet show.
Yeah, it gave me a chance to do all these different characters.
They're going, right, we're going to do that.
I was always like, I did Oucho and loved it, but I was like, I do want to speak English.
Yeah,
I do want to say some funny lines. I do want to try a different voice. I always wanted Oucho to walk. And
reveal that he had legs.
Ed would just not let me have him walk. Which is best. It was best that he never walked.
I know what you mean. There's certain jokes that would be really funny, but it's like I suppose like they open up things too much almost.
And it was the rules that we had for that setup which made it fantastic, I think.
I mean, you probably could have got away with like a plot where he hires legs.
He did walk once.
Did he?
And that was in a nightmare sequence of Ed's.
Oh, brilliant. So that's even better because real life Ed is going, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. So it's like, right, well then we'll put it in a nightmare
often
sequence.
That would happen. Often arguments we would have or things that were going on between the group would end up on television as Ed and Oucho setups.
So that's brilliant though. Because that's a level of passion. The arguments are starting because you guys are going, no, don't do that. No, we keep this like that. No, that should be about that. You're driven toward it. So then instead of it turning into a slagging off each other fest, it's put into the material turned into something.
We'd have those
because it is a preposterous argument to have, really. Do you know what I mean? You take a step back from the world of telling stories and puppeteering.
Why can't he have legs?
Yeah, you take that step back and you go, "What the hell are we getting riled up over? Yeah. Like this is ridiculous." But it's that level of passion that's
everybody was
throughout
really
the
passionate.
thing. They would never attempt this now, and this isn't like a comment on the current CBBC presentation or any sort of live presentation thing per se, but I don't think the risk would be taken now to have a character that spoke in a completely made up language.
Yeah, no,
it's a big risk.
What was great is that they just went straight back to 85, I think it was. Mm-hmm. Like Gordon, the girlfriend of the duck.
Yeah,
speak.
like so squeaks and squawks.
Yeah, they took it all the way back to that.
But to have a semi-coherent to a non-Cactinian speaker language is bold. I mean, you guys were, you were having full-blown conversations. And it was nice as well because you could grasp words as time went by. Yeah. It was never strictly Oucho says something and Ed has to translate. Well, he would just sort of quite often give the response.
Well, it's such clever writing. So, so you wouldn't have to translate me. He could just, you could answer me or say, sometimes it's funny not to translate and just go, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Because then it leaves it to the audience to interpret what the joke is. What has he said?
Gives an excuse for a cheeky glance to camera and things like that to let the audience fill the gap.
Yeah, there were lots of really clever ways of getting around the fact that he didn't speak English, but still getting across what he was saying. And like I
it's all me.
came up with a whole language there, and Ed was constantly hounding me to write it down, and I'd never have written it down.
I mean, for posterity, maybe.
Once made a list, but I'm like, it's fine, it's in my head. And then when we came to do some more recently, I was like, oh, maybe it's not all in my head.
Another big part of that Ed and Oucho's style as well is the fact that you guys, like you said about treating it as a sitcom, you would create that show between the shows, which is something that bled into the era when I joined in as well.
Yeah.
But you guys started it. What was that like? Because it would be Monday to Friday sometimes would be an entire arc.
Yeah, so we'd come in the morning and we'd have a meeting every day for a couple of hours about what that was going to be next week or however many days or weeks in advance. And it would be Oucho's getting married next week because there's a royal wedding or something.
Yeah.
So on the Monday, he'll decide that he wants to get married. On the Tuesday, he'll meet someone. We'll have a guest in, a comedy character. On the Wednesday, we'll debate what's best, marriage or fridges.
Oh yeah, because it was like things like
big debate.
Yeah.
On the Thursday, then there would be some kind of issue would happen where it all starts to fall apart, and then on the Friday is the conclusion. It has fallen apart, but I don't know. The lady maybe took all of his money or something. I don't know what happened, you know. So we had those weeks cut to get that's half an hour a day. Back in those days, we did half an hour a day of content. So that's like 2.5 hours worth. That's a movie.
Yeah. Oh God. I mean, you could arguably with a lot of stuff from that era, you could cut that footage together, cut out the link bit if need be, yeah. Which I think is part of the unique appeal of the CBBC Office era of presentation, because a lot of focus, and I've been quite vocally complained about this quite a bit. You get the raison d'etre given to you of like, it's about promoting the shows that are on, and I've always said if a kid wants to know what show's on next, they press the I button on the remote control. What you need to do is you need to make sure that there's a reason to stick around.
Yeah, I mean,
keep them going.
Probably went too far.
I mean, maybe, but also you guys were the first of its kind. So it was a testing ground.
Yeah.
I don't think a viewer looks back at that period and would say like, "Oh, it went a bit far." I think they go, "Oh my god, do you remember when? Yeah. Oh my god, do you remember
There's
this?"
some cracking storylines.
Oh yeah, I mean, off the top of your head, can you think of like any ones that stick out to you as like, "Oh, that I'm surprised we did that," or "I'm so glad we did that."
Oucho getting pregnant.
Yes, that's a pretty good one, to be fair.
The guest characters we had were brilliant. Queen Victoria, played by Greg Davies.
Yes. Oh God, you'd forgotten about that. Because he was on a few times, wasn't he? He played Guy Fawkes.
Yeah. Casablanca, played by Merrick Larwood on Valentine's Day. Oucho getting married. There's so many of them. Oucho went to Paris. There are so many of them. We celebrated Ginger Day with Oucho's Uncle Frank, which is Phil Fletcher, and that was the first time Phil had done CBBC.
Yeah. Was that a did you recommend him on that one?
Well, me and Phil had known each other for years. We were trying to figure out yesterday how many years, and we were saying like it's close to 20. We've known each other a long time before we came to the BBC.
Yeah.
And then I came first and did Oucho and all that stuff, and then he came to cover me while I was away doing one of the shows. Excellent Inventions of Transmission Impossible, one of the Oucho shows.
Oh, so what cover did he do then?
I can't remember which of the shows it was. I think it was the second time we did Excellent
Inventions.
You
mean like he did fill-in, standing in to...
Or Ian and Hacker.
Oh, right, you mean Ian Hacker
came in to do the shift that Ed and Oucho would be doing.
Yeah. It would have been Excellent Inventions Series 2, because that was the one that went out when I'd started early 2010.
Yeah, and Holly Walsh and Dunstan the Brain had covered us while we did Series 1.
Yeah. Because of course, like the CBBC Office era kicked off with you guys, and it led to Holly and Dunstan and Dan and Jeff, and eventually Ian and Hacker, of course, then became the regular weekday afternoons by that point. Because Ed and Oucho branched out into shows and Excellent Inventions. There was Transmission Impossible. You guys had the stab at live Saturday morning TV.
Yeah, often forgotten, but
much beloved.
Again, like it was the first in a long time because there hadn't been a Saturday morning show maybe since The Bungalow or something.
Bungalow, yeah. I mean, I think around the time you guys did it, they experimented a bit, because I think after you guys did your run, that was when they brought back a version of Swap Shop and things like that. So but Transmission Impossible was the first proper go at it since the Mighty Bungalow closed its doors in 2006.
And that was a crazy concept, because it was Ed and Oucho on a blimp flying around the
Just
UK.
Just cause.
Chucking kids off the blimp.
Where did you film that?
In Pinewood Studios.
It was Pinewood. Okay.
Studio H, I think, which was a little very old, narrow, long studio. Have you ever gone down there?
I've not been to Studio H. I've been at Pinewood once or twice.
It's behind. It's gone now. I think it was behind the TV studios, TV 1 and 2, and they rehearsed for the Little Shop of Horrors in there with the plant.
Yeah.
So another.
So you already had the history.
So
Right?
like, wow, this is a kind of a blessed space.
So that is a beautiful thing about people who are passionate about a thing they do, and especially puppeteers' passions. Like the one time I went to do some behind the scenes stuff for the Slammer, Dave Chapman, who of course, like Dave Chapman, who we mentioned before, who was just the advert, but in that he was Peter Nocchio. One of his few on camera roles with the CBBC stuff, and he said to me when I was there behind the scenes, he went, "Oh, come over here." I was like, "What is it?" He says, "Have a look at this," and he just put up like this sort of A3 piece on the wall that was a bit of history of the studio that the Slammer was in, and it was like Jabba's palace from Return of the Jedi and stuff. And he's like, "Look at this." He's like, "That photo's over there." He's just like, "I just thought I'd put it up in case people were interested." I was like, "That's amazing." Because you sort of forget, don't you, in some respects.
It's the workplace, but you forget the history of the places at TV Centre, all the legendary stuff.
Glorious, like in that, to be in that space, even if it was a converted editing suite, like you're still doing it where those big shows all came from.
Like when I talk to some of my American friends and I say, "Oh, I was at Elstree Studios today," they're like, "Wow, you were at Elstree Studios today?"
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? And Pinewood and all those places, they have so much history, and all of our favourite things were made in those places.
Now, for the sake of covering my arse a little bit here, because I know that the hardcore, way older than should have been watching Ed and Oucho fandom of 2010 were a little bit miffed at Oucho's sort of sudden
disappearance.
Well, it was sort of phasing out almost, wasn't it? Because he sent some video messages in from an office, because he was working in the CBBC office. Office was the official kind of biography as to why he wasn't around.
I don't remember that.
And then I came in, because Ed and Oucho came back to do Christmas 2009. You guys took over.
Every shift of December, I remember that.
Yeah. And that was when I first got to meet you guys. I'd met Phil about a month and a half before, when I did my first screen test. Well, I did an audition, then I did my second audition, which I found out later was actually a screen test for the 3 people, myself included, that were there. Right. But then I was the only one who got a job from it, and I came in early December when I knew I was starting in January.
I remember the day.
Yeah, to have a meeting, just to sort of meet Ed and meet the producer at the time was Chris Maguire, and meet him and see the offices and see everything. And there was this great bit where they were like, "Do you need to go yet?" I was like, "My train's not for 3 hours, so not yet." They're like, "Do you want to come to studio?" And it suddenly hit me like, "Oh my god, I've signed a contract. I've not actually been in the studio environment during anything. I've just been in there for auditions." And it was one of my favourite little memories of that thing was I was sat in during Live Links, and as we've said, it's a very small room. It was a tiny room.
3 feet away from me.
I was sat on like a little sort of, cushion stool, either side of whatever central camera would have been. Would have camera 1, wouldn't have,
the left
in
of
there.
the wide shot,
And every time it cut to a close of Ed on camera 3, Oucho, on purpose, because you knew where I was sat, would just look at me and pull a face every time. Because obviously I could see the monitor, so I could see when it was going to a close of Ed, and every time it happened, you would just turn and go, which I thought was brilliant. Because I was nervous as hell. I was like, I'm going to be doing this in a month. Yeah. This is so weird.
And we were so.
Oh, you guys were in tune, and I was aware of you two. Yeah. When I went in for my first test, and they went, "You're going to do screen tests with Hacker the dog," and I looked at him and I was like, "That's not the Cactus." I was really confused, because to me, Ed and Oucho was CBC, because I was college uni age, but that's how much you guys permeated, and that's how much the office.
Well, it was also all like, it was all branded so well. The logo was green, Oucho was green, the desk was green. It was all, everything tied in really lovely. It
was great. Terrible for chroma key, but brilliant for everything else. But so I started, and I was teamed with Ed. Now, I'm sure Ed and I will have discussed this in our episode, but the reason for that was due to your availability. You were working on Mongrels for BBC Three.
Yeah, when we had CACTUS characters in The Office, I'd try and choose some of the puppeteers I'd not worked with before, but loved watching.
Yeah.
So Andy Heath was one of the puppeteers who I asked to come in, and
the original hacker.
He was the original hacker in Scoop One, and he was busy making puppets for another show while he was doing that. While he was doing Scoop One, he had a big puppet build job on, and I got him in to do Viva Voom, which was the wedding planner, the CACTUS wedding planner for Oucho's wedding week.
What a great name.
Yeah, Viva Voom. And while he was there, he said, "I've just made these puppets, and we've just shot a pilot. Look at this," on his phone.
Yes.
Early doors of phones being able to have video on them.
Yeah.
And it was the Mongrels pilot.
I'm sure that's on the DVD or the Blu-ray. Yeah.
Called We Are Mongrels. And I was just like, I can't believe what's happening in front of my eyes. It was unlike any puppet show that had happened in such a long time. Probably since the Muppets left England.
Yeah, it was part of, but also it was the tone. Like, it was very adult. It was adult. Very adult.
But for me, it wasn't about that. It was about the visuals.
Yeah.
It was such high end. The quality was so, production values, and the money was just all on screen. The sets were amazing. The lighting was amazing. The props were amazing. The puppets were amazing.
There was no half-arsing. It was if we're doing a story based around these animals in the yard and everything, like, we're going to build that set. We're going to have them interacting with that set.
And it was a raised set, which means the set floor starts at about 4 foot up in the air. It might have even been 5 foot for that. It was really high. And all the puppeteers were stood up. 6 foot puppeteers were stood up with their arms in the air, and it looked like the puppets were on the floor. It was a house set and a garden and dustbins out the back of a pub. A car was up there, and he gave me a DVD and said, "This is the pilot. Have a look." He knew me. He knew that I liked what he liked. We have the very same sensibility and the stuff we like. He grew up on the Muppets and stuff, so he gave it to me, and I went home and watched it 4 times in a row, and couldn't believe my eyes. And just wanted to watch it again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
And then something happened, and they auditioned puppeteers for the series. They got commissioned. Auditioned puppeteers for the series, and I got the part of Marion the cat.
Yes, which makes me very happy, because when I found out that's who you were playing and I watched it, I was like, oh, that's my favourite character.
I couldn't believe it. It was voiced by Dan Tetzel. And they made such gorgeous puppets, and we had 2 series of it. It was fantastic. And that's the reason I had to go away from Oucho, is because such a big puppet show had come up. And I couldn't miss the opportunity to do it. And
it was an odd call for them in a way, because they knew that Ed was doing at least another 5 months. Like, that was the plan, was to have Ed bridge in, because they didn't. I guess it was a mix of things. They didn't know what the likelihood of you two being back in it again was going to be per se, but also there was a new exec producer at the time, and as happens a lot, telly people want to make their mark.
The reason why it never continued at Oucho is because there was a new boss.
Yeah.
And that was the old thing, and now they went in with a new thing.
Yeah, which is sometimes a brilliant idea, sometimes a terrible idea. It all depends on circumstance.
It's just the way
it's an inevitable thing of television.
Yeah.
Is someone comes along and goes,
I don't feel negative about it. I don't feel any way about it. I just feel like that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's what happens.
Unfortunately, that cookie crumbled into the shape of me. Because there was a mini sort of online backlash from the older fans of like, who the hell is this and why is Oucho not here anymore?
Well, I feel like people might have thought that they didn't get enough time with them, Ed and Oucho.
Maybe, because it was
short-lived.
On and off in 2 years on Prez and with a couple shows.
3 series.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's a long time, really, for what it is.
Yeah.
But it made its mark.
Well, again, like it's Ed and Oucho is akin to sort of Philip Schofield and Gordon the Gopher, and that it isn't that long a period of time when you look at it.
We sure packed a lot in.
But it packs a lot in and is remembered.
Yeah.
Like, it's so well recalled and remembered by people. So when I came in there, it was weird. It felt like I had a very big boots to fill is the wrong phrase. It was like I had like a big plant pot to fill.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, oh my God, how the hell do I fit into this world in response, in a reaction to the Oucho shaped void that's not here anymore. And I think the guys there made a smart call at the time. The aforementioned Guy Lambert was around, so when it came to the lives, he sort of knew what not to try and redo, because it wasn't the same thing. And the team that was there at the time, like Chris Maguire and everybody, sort of they got the idea from the top that we shouldn't be trying to do Ed and Oucho 2.0, but one happens to be a human. Yeah. They tuned into Ed's sketch show kind of actory approach. And they were looking for someone who could do that too.
Fall into that, yeah.
Yeah, and because I came from acting and sketch work and stuff like that, so that's how that worked. I didn't get to meet you too much, obviously because of Mongrels and everything. But then you were cast as another character within
Mongrel.
presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, now, so we did Mongrels 1. So Mongrels 2 was the reason why I left, actually.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that would have been right, wouldn't it? Yeah, because Mongrels would have TX'd in
Mongrels 2 was
2010.
the reason that I left to do Oucho. And I think the real reason is the boss changed.
Yeah.
I wanted something new.
Yeah.
And
which happens, which, you know, like we said,
yeah, it's fine.
it sucks, but sometimes it gives birth to cool new things.
It let you in, so...
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think the cool new thing was Ian and Hacker, to be honest.
But Ian and Hacker had been there a while, and they were just getting established, and so I came back and did Dodge.
Yes. Dodge T-Dog.
Once Mongrels had finished, Dodge the Dog, who will, as of March 2020, have been on air for 10 years.
10 years.
Which is crazy. It's such a crazy thought.
And still 6.5 years old.
What I always wanted, actually. I always wanted a character that had been around for a long time.
Yeah.
That was always one of my dreams, to have a character that had just been around, just had soaked up the life, had met people, knows people know him. And I'd always dreamed of having that. So I
it sort of naturally develops as well as a result of that.
If it changes, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel so lucky to have had that. But so when I came back, Ian and Hacker, Ian and Phil, were in full swing. Now, I'd known Phil for many years before this. And we had messed around and stuff. We had never really worked with each other. So then I get plonked into the world of Ian and Hacker. Now, I'm the newbie.
Yeah, which is an odd thing, because like that,
But I've been there the longest.
Yeah, like you were the veteran at this point of that world,
and telling them,
but
things
it wasn't.
that they didn't know,
but it wasn't your world anymore. It was their world. Yeah.
So I'm falling in. So I come from a tightly scripted Ed and Oucho where everything's planned to the T, and we know what's going to happen, and this is happening because of this, and you say this, and I say that, and because Ed has to translate Oucho, I have to be saying this sentence so Ed can translate the sentence, and then we come into the world of Ian and Hacker, where it's off the cuff.
Yeah, like it sort of started.
Improv.
It started in the same structure.
Yeah.
But then over time, as it always should be, like they play more to the strength of the presenters. Yeah.
Ed and I want something to be clean cut and professional, and if it looks like it's falling apart, it's intentional.
Yeah.
Whereas they like things to be so free and easy, and they're just going to improv it, and they're just going to do this and that, and I will see what happens. So I fall into that, and I'm like, oh my god. I can't work like this.
This is so strange.
I need rules. you don't stick to the script. I have to say this, so you need to say that. And Ian and Phil are like, well, we might not, probably won't say that. And I'm like, well, where do I stand in all of this? So then I had to learn from them how to do that.
Yeah.
Up until that point, I did not have those skills, and Phil had years of the cabaret circuit, and Ian was a stand-up comedian, so they were great at doing that, and I was completely in deep water. I kind of didn't. I knew my place, but I didn't know how to deal with it.
You definitely adapted to it, though.
You have to.
You definitely grew into it.
Sink or swim.
Do you think it helped, though, after that initial... Because you originally, as Dodge, were live for like a month and a half, 2 months with Ian.
Yeah.
And then the Chris and Dodge era started.
Yeah.
Which I think was like...
So I probably had my way for a bit with Ian.
Yeah, like...
Of keeping the lid on things and keeping it all under control. But then when Phil comes into it...
Yeah.
When Phil ever came back from Hacker Time, I suppose.
I was Scoop Series 2.
Scoop.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, whoa, this is a new thing to me.
Yeah, this is so like oddball and strange.
And you and I have a similar way of working, so...
Yeah, well, I think again, because I'd come from... I think it helped that I'd come from the Ed and Oucho school of structure because of working with Ed and being part of that system. So by the time we came together, I think when we first started, it was a bit shaky in terms of the material, but by that first live summer we did together, the team that were on it were consistent in the tone, and the script and items sort of played to our strengths a lot more. I remember there was a lot of recurring odd skits that Danny Jackson had written. There was quite a lot of odd recurring skits that he did in that first summer that suited us so well, because they did require those like block filming things of, right, we'll get you two over here to film some stuff for a bit, and we're going to play one of them out a week, and
exactly,
and weird recurring items like breakfast time with Dodge, like every morning we would sing a song about we'd sing a song about what we're going to have for breakfast. We'd realise that you'd not bought it or you'd eaten it already, so then we'd go to get more by me flying on Dodge's back.
I never liked the Dodge could fly. They had that Dodge could fly because he had big ears. I never liked it.
Well, I remember the time you said that, and then Danny responded to that by, in the very last week, I said something like, wait a minute, you can fly? And Dodge was like, no, what are you talking about?
Don't acknowledge it.
Which was like, oh, well, it's Tracy Baker. Yeah. And it was just this whole... I had a weird soft spot for it just because I love the fact we were pastiching Never-Ending Story in the visual for no reason.
Well, had somebody told me that, I'd have been in.
You'd be like, wait, I'm Falcor. Yeah!
I've been Falcor.
And it also gave birth to one of my favourite Dodge moments ever, which is on like the week 5 of this recurring Monday to Friday first gag. I'm like, come on, let's go off into the world adventure, whatever. And you go, yay! And it just cuts a close up of Dodge, and he just turned to the camera, sighed really sadly, and went, he's so heavy. It just goes back to the wide as we go off to
Dodge is
fly.
a very little doggy. He's not got a very strong spine.
He's only small in a way.
What I remembered while we were talking about that is that actually the first time I came back to do Ian and Hacker stuff, I came back as a record producer. On a rare day off from Mongrels, I came back and did...
Yes, that's true.
It was a Broom Cupboard, and he was a big-time record producer who was going to make them famous.
Yeah.
With their chair rap, I think it was. Chair goes up, chair goes down, chair goes round and around or something.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And then I did Hacker's mum. Hacker and Dodge's mum now.
Of course, you were the originator of that role.
So I did her before I did Dodge. I did her way over 10 years ago. She still pops up.
How is she still alive?
We just did Pointless, and we took her to Pointless, and she was in the audience at Pointless.
Oh my god, really? Right.
Hacker and Dodge on Pointless.
Did you play her for that appearance?
I did the voice for her.
Right. Okay. Because
a third puppeteer called Lewis had to do the puppetry.
Right.
Because Phil and I were Hacker and Dodge
in the
show.
That makes sense.
I threw the voice. He performed to the voice.
Because without getting too crass, Mrs. Hacker is the bike of the cast. Like, many people have played.
I don't know how that
Mrs.
happens.
Hacker.
With puppets, one performer does one puppet character, right? That's the rules. Somehow, along the way, because Phil and I have come and gone.
There's probably availability and things like that, yeah.
And she's not Hacker. Only ever, since Phil took over Hacker, he's been the only puppeteer to do Hacker. Unless I've had to do it through his pre-recorded track.
Yeah.
The same with Dodge. I'm the only puppeteer to ever do Dodge.
Yeah.
Unless I can't be there and it's a song or something. So I'll do the voice track and then Phil will puppeteer to the voice track. No one else has ever done those. No one else ever will do those.
Yeah.
They once threatened that other people would do them. And we said, good luck. And of course you can't do that.
For real?
They're us, yeah.
Was it like a contract negotiation or something?
I don't know. I can't remember what it was, but...
That's so strange when people use that as
and they realised
as a weeing contest. They sort of go like, well, we'll just get someone. It's like, yeah, good luck. So good luck with that.
And they tried. It was evident you can't do that because they're us.
Yeah.
And so, but with the mum, I don't know. So I wasn't there, so someone else did it. Phil wasn't there, so someone else did it.
Do you think
she has been passed around?
Do you think it's because she's a tertiary character? Like she's not a regular.
You never get away with
guest character.
Yeah. She's rarely seen. So
I'm trying to think so who played her or puppeteered for her at Pointless? What was his name?
Called Lewis.
There was Lewis in there. You've been Phil's been
Neil Sterenberg.
Neil Sterenberg has been there. It's definitely what Matt Wilson has performed there at some point.
Probably performed it at one point.
So she's,
I'm sure
if she gets a series at some point, you're all going to have to go to war.
I'm sure Helena or Kat Smee have performed her on Hacker Time at one point. Yeah, but I originated her.
You did. It's true, and she originated.
I like to think that my version is the version that
yours is the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah,
because
I based it on Hacker at that point.
Yeah, but also because you're related. So let's just chart the personal history for those keeping score at home. Hacker and Dodge are brothers. Hacker is the older brother.
Hacker
He's
are half brothers.
Oh, the half brothers.
They have different.
That's right. They have different mum and different dads.
Yeah.
But Mrs. Hacker is still their mum.
She's both of their mums.
She's both their mums, even though they have different mums and different dads.
It's not worth trying to go into it.
Hacker's 6, and he's the older brother. Dodge is the younger brother, and he's 6.5.
Yes. These are the rules we stick to.
They grew up together.
So
Dodge has never left. Dodge pre the CBC office never left Hackney. Hacker pre the CBC office never left Hindley.
Yeah.
So it's like what?
And Hacker's what? What kind of dog is he?
He's I can't remember now, but the
Cocker
two
Spaniel or something.
Cocker's Spaniel.
Yeah, and Dodge is a mongrel. We didn't ever say it would make sense.
But that was the beauty of it. I remember we did that.
But we did stick to those nonsense rules. We stick to them.
Do you remember, I explicitly remember we did that event in Glasgow once. Where it was like
10th anniversary of the channel.
10th anniversary of the channel, and we did it was you, me, Ian and Phil did like a mini sort of, I guess it was almost a mini convention almost, wasn't it, at the BBC studios in Glasgow. And we did a Q&A session. We were meant to do them scattered, and we all just went, no, sod it, let's just, we're all scheduled at different times, let's just all go and do the same Q&A. And you'd get kids asking those questions because they wanted to know.
They want to know, yeah.
And we'd muddle up the history and
we'd
make
like
it...
to confuse them a bit.
Yeah.
But we confuse them with the answers, but we are consistent with the answers.
Yeah, oh yeah. On brand.
It's constant confusion, which is always good.
Hello, I'm Matt.
And I'm Chris, and we're the hosts of The Big Damn Cast, a weekly pop culture podcast full of nerdy news and geeky gossip, available every Thursday on iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. But that's not all.
That's right, Chris.
Why are you laughing?
We're expanding to create regular video content, and we need your support. To get access to Big Damn exclusives, including our Discord server and video commentaries, head over to patreon.com/BigDamnCast and support us for as little as $1 a month.
We're grateful for any support you can give us. So grateful, we may even reveal the location of the antidote.
Chris, just stop.
Amuse your friends. Startle your enemies. Listen to the synth pop magic of the Pound Shop Boys. Includes your favourites. Fireman Sam. Jamie and the Magic Torch. And Grandad. Pound Shop Boys nostalgia. It's the ideal Christmas gift. Only £8 plus postage on compact disc. Digital download available too. The Northwest's premier synth duo. Great value, great fun, great quality.
Now, Dodge lives on to this very day, sir. Even though the CBBC presentation changes and shifts and shapes and different stuff goes on.
And I get confused about this, and I think you told me that Dodge came around on March the 3rd, 2010.
Yes. It was definitely March 2010.
Or March 30th, 2010.
And I think it might be probably March 30th, because it would have been after that. It would have been after the February half term a little bit.
So you know these things.
And it will have been... he appeared a couple times with Ian and Hacker before he then... took over.
I do know that Dodge was delivered in a cardboard box.
Yes, he was.
The CBBC office.
I remember that link distinctly because I was in the office watching it and going like, "Oh wow, look at him! He looks so
another
cute.
one, yeah.
Look at his big chunky face."
It's like gremlins are all over the place. And then he said they opened up the box and he went, "All right, bruv," in that Phil Mitchell-esque way that we all know and love him for.
But that's the thing, like you said before, there's natural progression and evolution of the characters, and Dodge has found his personality and he's found his voice so much, again, through all odds, because like you were joking saying, oh, there's another one. Like it seems like an odd choice to do another dog when there's one going on. But I think you and Phil, the way you play off each other, and again, your different approaches to how you play characters,
what's important
made them feel more organic. It didn't just feel like another Hacker.
Yeah, well, I was always very cognizant of it not being Hacker 2. Mm-hmm. It looks like him, apart from the big ears, so it can't be from Wigan. It can't do all the things that he likes to do. Yeah. And the hard thing for me was he had just taken up all the traits that you would naturally go toward. Yeah. Like all the doggy things. So, you know, like, as a puppeteer, okay, so it's a dog character, so it's easy because you've got bones and you've got walkies and you've got all these things. Yeah. You've just got all the things that you would naturally gravitate towards as your toolbox, as the jumping point.
Oh, physically, again, like just Dodge would jump more into dog traits. Yeah. As well, like there was a lot more snuffling. There was a lot more
sniffing and stuff. So, but you've got those things, so then you can build off of that. But
we had the waggy tail as well, didn't we?
Waggy tail, yeah. Because Hacker had come before me, he'd already used up all those things, and for me, that would have just been me rehashing everything he'd done. So it was harder for me.
Oh, I think, it's
to make that original, and it, like you said, it was against all odds because I kept going up against things.
There was every risk of it being a like to coin a Simpsons turn of phrase. There was every risk of it being a Poochie situation and here's another cool guy who's also one of these.
And I was always so aware of it being that. I'm not anymore because it's been 10 years. So,
but I think again also like the double act stuff and the different partnerships over the years. Like obviously, to a big generation of kids, like some of the younger listeners of this podcast and or their younger siblings or their kids, Katie and Dodge is the Dodge era to them, because you guys were double act for like what 3 years, near enough, like so 2013
more, I don't know.
to 2016, 2017. Not Katie joined in January 2013.
Oh, I don't know.
They all blend into one. There's 10
It was a
years.
very important double act for me and for Dodge.
Mm-hmm.
The same as you and Dodge.
Yeah.
Were an important double act. For me, that was a very important... That was like a whole period of growth.
Yeah, because
you
you and I had
grow.
been in that odd position at that point of being put in so many different pairings, and
yeah.
every now and again we would gravitate back towards each other and we would get a slot together.
And when you get,
that worked
when you
really
get
well.
together with someone who you are good with, your character grows and you find out about yourself and your character.
Yeah.
That's how you develop a character. So with you and with Katie, it were big periods of growth for Dodge for me. And I think it probably was at that point with Katie where I relaxed and was like, okay, I know what this is.
Yeah.
And that's 5 or 6 years in.
Yeah.
That's a long time in.
I think it is. I think it's a bad sign if it's always entirely comfortable.
Yeah.
There always has to be some element of, oh, I've not done that before.
Yeah, and I'm always trying to do new things.
Because it keeps you aware of what you're capable of and what the character can do
Yeah.
and what the character's capable of.
But that's like, I think from that point on, he's the same character as he is now. But before that, he was always evolving.
Yeah, he's definitely a gentler soul than the Dodge that very first appeared. But as a result, that has made that's made the things he can do and the range that he can play in so much broader as a result.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's such a natural, comfortable fit that he is, of course, now one of the faces of the CBeebies franchise, the CBeebies channel.
CBeebies house pet, yeah.
Because again, like that's not something that they toyed for a long time about having a regular puppet character.
Well, I'd been pitching for years.
You bin them, BB Bunny. Was a character who was around for quite some time in and out.
I pitched a cat for that channel years ago, and then pitched BB Bunny, and BB Bunny made it in and was on for a while, and then I don't know. Eventually, that stopped, and then Dodge came in.
Mm-hmm. But I think that works because CBBC had changed to the point where it wasn't quite the same world anymore, but there were familiar elements like hackers. So I think it worked so well in the older brother, younger brother thing of being like, these guys have their own home, and it means that when you guys do cross over now, it's quite special. It's like,
perfect.
oh look, it's Hacker and Dodge together.
They
again.
actually have the perfect place to be now.
Yeah,
Dodge fits in perfectly in CBeebies.
Yeah,
Hacker fits in perfectly in CBeebies. But before all that happened, we did have a mini series called Barkstage at The Voice UK.
Oh yes,
Hacker and Dodge backstage at The Voice UK, where they had free run,
both, all
one of those things, where they were let loose on the show The Voice with Rita Ora and Tom Jones and will.i.am and
Ricky
from Kaiser Chiefs.
Thingy,
Ricky Wilson.
Yes, I think.
And
I don't think I ever watched the show. I only ever watched some of your backstage stuff.
Emma Willis and
little Kel was doing some of the behind the scenes stuff.
Kel wasn't
around
there
then.
yet.
Oh, this was before the ITV.
The presenters
were
were
ITV switch. Yeah.
Emma Willis and Rochelle Hume's husband.
That fella.
Yeah. But I mean, more excitingly, Tom Jones and will.i.am, Rita Ora, who we kind of like became familiar with because we were around them all the time, and Ricky, Ricky was brilliant with the puppets.
Yeah,
he was fantastic with the puppets.
I bought into it,
and we just spent all that time in that series around The Voice, which was crazy, and it was his own little mini spin-off. So we love that. The end.
Now we mustn't forget, because it may be a brief part in Prez history, but you've had 3 CBBC puppet characters under your belt in terms of the presentation mascot character.
3 that were my own.
3 that were your bag.
But I also did Gordon the Gopher.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I think you've heard the first episode, so sorry. I filled in.
Oh, you did, you did it for a thing.
Now, to be fair, it's for a still image.
You did it. I remember. No, but I did it for the first.
And I was the only other person in the building at the time.
But you were under Phil's watchful eye, so it's fine. But I did.
So funny. I went back to the office. I was like, I don't know. I think I should tell Warrick that I just did that.
Oh,
they were like, why? And I was like,
kind of needed permission from Paul Smith, who was the originator. Really, he gave me permission to do it, and I did it for the 25th anniversary.
You did, of course. Yeah, you've done it for this morning.
And I did it on This Morning.
Yeah.
And I did him for the 30th anniversary with Philip Schofield.
But in terms of your babies,
my characters.
You've been Dodge the Dog, you've been Oucho the Cactus, and you have been Blinkbot.
Blinkbot 3000.
Whose time on Prez was shorter, and I think that was more. He was more a victim of circumstance due to the changing genre at Prez at the time. amongst other stuff. But he was unique in the sense that he was a co-creation with the audience, right? Like the audience informed who he would be.
Yeah, they sent in drawings of what they wanted, and then we chose elements of each of the designs. Not each of the designs, because there were hundreds, probably thousands. But they got whittled down.
We've combined these 400 in that they're all a robot.
Yeah.
So he's a robot.
No, they like the production team whittled them down to a select few, quite a few, and then we all had a big old meeting and we kind of chose all the favourite parts. And then Neil Sterenberg made the puppet and used all those design elements in the final piece. And we did it it was like a stunt week, is what we call it, Robot Week.
Yeah, it was a big event culminating in the Doctor. His name was a Doctor Who
born
tie-in.
out of the TARDIS.
Yeah,
the robot was born out of the TARDIS. And
so
then,
CBBC's canon with Doctor Who, folks.
Hacker went down
CBBC office is real.
Hacker went down to visit, I think, and then Hacker and Groom went to visit, and the TARDIS got a bit smoky and made all these noises and stuff.
Because you were on set for that as well, weren't
Yeah,
you? He emerged
he
on
popped
set
out.
in the
the
thingy.
smoke.
That's a cool set, from what I've heard. That's
It was
the
very
only
cool
modern TARDIS I haven't been able to visit as of yet.
We went to Cardiff and shot for the day. It was very cool, really cool. And he was around for Robot Week, and then he was kind of around for a bit after that. But soon after, I went to Sesame Street.
So, big question on this one, because we talked about like what young Warrick, how he would respond to know the sort of jobs you get to do. But more important than that, how do you get to Sesame Street?
How do I get to Sesame Street?
Yeah, just you.
This is
I don't know the general directions.
This is how I got to Sesame Street. You won't expect this answer. I was a background puppeteer on the Furchester Hotel for the first series.
Which was a CBB's
Sesame
Street co-production.
It's basically 40 Towers with the Muppets.
Yeah.
A hotel
and
run by
it's
puppets.
some of the regular Sesame cast appear in it, like Cookie Monster appears in it, Elmo appeared in it.
With Elmo's aunt, Vanilla.
Yeah.
Who has a husband and a daughter who live and work at the hotel. Mm-hmm. And there's a whole hotel full of monsters and animals, and there's guest characters each week. So I would do the guest characters. Each episode there'd be a different guest, and I'd be some of those characters. Mm. There was a little monster that would hit the gong to signify it's now tea time. And when I first saw that puppet in the rehearsal sessions, I was like, wow, that looks like a Muppet from the 60s that Jim Henson would have done. I want to do that one. But somebody had already had dibs on it.
Yeah. Bagged him.
So he did it. And it just hit the gong to signify tea time. 3 seconds per episode. That was it. In the second block of filming, and I don't know how these break up into seasons and stuff, but in the second block of filming, I got the opportunity to be that character, and I developed it up as it was a chef this time. He was in the kitchen with Cookie Monster. Yeah, he would still hit the gong, but he was a chef, and he was quite cantankerous, as all my characters are. And
they're all therapy.
It just happened to be that when David Rudman, who performs Cookie Monster, was in town doing Cookie Monster, everybody would laugh at what Gonger and Cookie Monster would get up to. Mm. And as soon as you get that, you kind of get confident and you think, oh, we're onto something here. Yeah. And they were always just hilarious together. There's one's very small, one's very big, they're quite mad. I don't know what it was, and we just worked well together. So I thought, this show's got to end soon. And that means what's happening between us has got to end soon.
Yeah. So you're like, no.
So I started working it up. I started working the idea up with the help of the exec producer Carolyn Parente and Ryan Dillon, who's Elmo, and Dave Rudman, and Andy Heath was there, and Neil Sterenberg and Louise Gold, and all these people, all these puppeteers were kind of on board with it. Yeah. They'd do anything they could to help me.
They could see that spark. Yeah. You guys had put something out into the universe, so everyone was like, ah.
So I wrote a treatment up and I wrote a pilot, and we shot it on iPhones just outside Media City in one of the food trucks, and I eventually sold that to Sesame's workshop, and it became part of Sesame Street, a 5-minute segment within Sesame Street. Cookie Monster and Gonger are working in a food truck that drives up onto Sesame Street, and they're making food for kids. Yeah. That's how I got to Sesame Street.
Could you tell me how to get... You create an iPhone pilot.
No, you could just take the A train.
But don't. This way's much more interesting. Yeah. You are 3 seasons deep already as a regular cast member on Sesame Street, playing Gonger.
I suppose so, yeah. We just did the 50th anniversary special, which is another dream come true for me. And that's like... we talk about the Rainbow Connection. Kermit sings about the Rainbow Connection. Yeah. And I was like, wow, yeah, I'm over the rainbow. I've stepped over the rainbow. And like, we had tears streaming down my face.
I'm not surprised. I mean,
it's such an achievement for me to have a character and for him to be part of one of those nostalgic specials, which I've always loved. I've always loved the anniversary specials. That's one of my favourite things we did at CBBC was the 30th anniversary special. It's still one of my favourite things of all time.
It's so rare when the things you kind of love and invested in go, let's celebrate ourselves and sort of
and
show off what we've achieved.
Yeah, so to be there with like all
on
this
the 50th
anniversary with all the Muppets I love, and the performers are so brilliant, and the human cast of Sesame Street from day one, and one of the camera guys is still there from day one. The celebrities, the amazing celebrity guests.
Who's the one you met where you were like, oh my god, I can't quite believe?
Patti LaBelle, who I don't know if many people in England know who this is, but she is a soul singer.
Yes.
From the 70s. She's famous for Voulez-vous coucher avec moi? That's Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells. And I could not believe it. And I still can't believe it. And we were sat there and I said to Ryan, who's Elmo, I'm going to go over there and sing with Patti LaBelle. And he was like, what? And I said, well, this won't happen again.
It's like, I'm not going to get this chance again.
I got up. And Ryan got up and we walked over there and we sang New Attitude with Patti LaBelle, because that's never going to happen to us again. And that's one of the highlights of my entire life. That's not in the show.
No,
that's
this
between
was
takes.
just going.
Yeah, so don't expect to see that in the special. That was just between takes and something that I had to do in my lifetime.
What do you think about the fact that you're doing that now? You're playing Gonger, who is in the show. The food truck is its own separate thing as well. Got Furchester incarnation. Your character's popping up in Florida and Orlando and the theme parks now.
There are walk-arounds in SeaWorld and... Oh, hold on. No. There's a walk-around in Sesame Place, which is the Sesame Street theme park.
Yeah.
And there was another one in the live tour.
Yeah. And there's SeaWorld has got their own Sesame branch of stuff.
SeaWorld has a Sesame Street and have toys for sale there and plush dolls and stuff.
So you've got this character's out in the ether who is yours.
He kind of exists without me now as well because of those live versions that are running around.
Yeah, but like what he has become and what he's become as part of that show is down to you.
Yeah, it means a hell of a lot.
And going, oh my god, we've got something, like let's pour some time and effort into this, and again, just your love of performing and everything. Does it strike you that out there somewhere right now amongst Sesame's audience is some other 4-year-old?
Oh, I hope so.
Who's watching that and going, God, I love Gonger. Mum, buy me a Gonger.
Well,
I want to do that.
Yes.
I want to do that.
The second part, I hope somebody's out there is watching it and saying, I want to do that. And like a British kid said to me recently, I want to do this when I grow up, or I'd like to be working like you are. And I was like, I want you to do that too. Fingers crossed. I want those kids to do it, because you can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. From where I come from and the background and stuff, if I can make this happen, anybody can make it happen.
I want to end it there, but we've got questions which you're committed to asking. I'm going to cry if you keep talking like this. You're going to make me weep, sir, with your warmth and your wisdom.
I don't have any tissues around.
That's fine. I'll just use Dodge, who might be here. Maybe, I don't know. Can't possibly say. Are you doing all right over there, mate? By the way,
Yeah!
Can you get your drink or anything?
No,
you're good. You're good.
I'm fine.
Okay. You have a nap. I'll speak to you in a bit, yeah?
Thanks, Chris.
No worries. Aw. It's much more pleasant nowadays. He used to threaten to break my knees.
Right, I'm going to be quiet now.
Okay. Be nice and quiet, yeah? We'll ask Warrick questions.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Yeah, he's good. Okay. So, this first one is from Rainbow Sky. Hello, Rainbow Sky. This feels like Prez, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All the names like that. This first one's from...
I've never had to answer questions before.
Oh, no pressure. Rainbow Sky says, how do you come up with the ideas for your puppets' personalities? So we'll take... let's take Blinkbot, for example. And obviously it was sort of creation by committee in a sense, but that character doesn't have a personality until you put him on and start delivering something. Where did that
the hardship for me in that character is he doesn't have a heart.
Oh, like the Tin Man.
Which is true for me. He's not a living thing. So to get into it is much harder for me, because my characters are quite soulful, I think. They're soft, they do have a heart, they have feelings. And so to do a robot is quite a challenge.
But even there, like that's you've just immediately given a technique away. You looked at him and you went like, right, well, he's not human. He doesn't have a heart. And then you've taken that to heart and gone, so he doesn't process things the same way we do. It's kind of colder blunt. So again, like there's
the visuals.
Yeah,
the visuals tell you very early on, and then we you work with the production team and the writers, and their take on it was that he would talk in like computer terms and binary things. So he was like, so you could plug a memory stick in and he could read your mind or something.
Yeah.
You know.
What about with, say, Oucho specifically?
So with Oucho, when I looked at him, I thought, well, look at that eyebrow. He's going to be angry.
Yeah.
and then you think about, like we discussed earlier, about the limits of being a plant in a pot. He can't walk, and that must be infuriating. It must be so frustrating not to be able to just bounce along somewhere and do what you want to do. You're being taken around by a man. I mean, I don't want to go left. I want to go right. Why are you taking me left? You know. So, and he loves bananas, but he can't get to them. So that's annoying because he just can't do what he needs to do.
He wants them, but he can't reach them.
He loves Dolly Parton. He can manage to probably put a Dolly Parton wig on and produce a guitar to play 9 to 5. I don't know how he manages to do that.
Willpower.
So I don't know. Yeah, the look of the design of the puppet initially, and then you play with it. It's all about play and interacting with people. That's how you really find out who the character is.
The Awesomest. Hello. 2 questions. Cheating, but I'll allow it because they're lovely. 1. Who do you prefer more, Dodge or Oucho?
That's a hard question. Prefer for
How
what
do you choose
reason?
between your furry children?
But prefer for what reason? I love Dodge because he is kind of just me these days.
He's a siphon.
heightened version of me, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love Oucho because he's funny. I mean, Dodge is funny. It's hard to choose. I like them for different reasons. I like Oucho because I think he's purely for comedy. He's purely there for comedic reasons. Mm-hmm. But Dodge I love because he exists in the real world and he can interact, and you can drop Dodge into any situation you need to drop him into and he will survive. Yeah. He'll handle it well because he's been around for so long. So
Oucho's sort of more your animal and and Dodge is more your Kermit. Yeah. Which is ironic because, as we all know, Oucho is a frog in a bucket.
Yeah. Often mistaken for a frog in a bucket.
They also ask, we all know that sometime around 2016 Dodge made the move into CBeebies. Why was that decision made? Which we've talked about a little bit, but was it easy getting used to it?
It was the best decision for Dodge, actually. Ian France made that decision to put Dodge into CBeebies, and I mean, I didn't know it, but that's what he needed. That's what Dodge needed to do, because he was always in Hacker's shadow, and I was always trying to not be Hacker. So for a long time, and then when we got to CBeebies, the variety of everything. We sing songs every day. We do comedy sketches. We do all these different kinds of things. Some of my favourite moments at work now are when we're in there singing a song, and I just feel like a pop star. I get to go to work and most days sing songs. Like, I just feel like I'm a Spice Girl.
It's one dream you always wanted to achieve that you hadn't quite made yet. Yeah, you've done it.
Another dream that not many people know about. Alright, how about Little Mix? Is that better?
No, I'll take Spice Girl. There's an opening in Spice Girls, to be fair. There's an opening.
I'm not posh enough.
Well, I don't know. You can put on a voice. It's fine. Put on a voice. Stare all the time, like looking like you're really bored.
But honestly, I do. I count my lucky stars. I just can't believe how lucky I am to be able to go to work and do that and sing with those guys, and they're great singers, and we have amazing songs written for us.
Did the transition to BB's feel smooth, did you think, in terms of just like the tone, the mindset you approached the audience with?
I had to change the tone.
Do you think it's an easier switch because, like, between Oucho and Dodge now, you became a dad, so like you're more aware of
possibly
that world?
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed it much more because I was entertaining the audience. I knew the audience, so I enjoyed that. But there was
because it's a disconnect people don't really think about with presentations. You don't really get that feedback. You don't really know what the audience reaction is to it. Yeah. Whereas you, I suppose, you observe the audience reaction.
Yeah.
Like,
and I kind of know it was working. I never
you could look down and be like,
I never doubted. You're enjoying it. I never doubted that it wouldn't work. I don't know. Maybe that's confidence I've built up over the years. I didn't doubt it. I thought it would work, but I was reluctant to change the tone of Dodge for a while. Yeah, and it was inevitable. I had to change the tone. You couldn't be as edgy as you are in CBBC, and it slowly did change. And I think that was just me coming to terms with this is what it needs to be now.
I mean, there's a sort of a hidden edginess to the CBeebies content that I think gives you guys the excuse to let that out a bit, usually through the parodies and things like that. Well, actually,
what they all said is it's great having Dodge in here because he can bring that edge that they couldn't have before. Yeah, he could get a bit saccharine, and now that he's here, he can kind of roll his eyes, and they're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, the presenters are sort of like they have to fit into a certain box of things that they're allowed to do. And
you wouldn't want to see them doing that. It's out of character. It doesn't feel right. But you kind of the puppet does get away with that kind of thing.
Chris Wood has asked same question as they asked Katie, and I think it's a pretty fun question. I don't want to ask you about this one because I've got a feeling I know what you're going to bring up. It must be difficult keeping everything child-friendly and suitable for broadcast sometimes. What's the closest you've come to saying or doing something that would get you fired on air for inappropriate behaviour? Or did you get in trouble?
Well,
so you're a good boy. Like you don't go in with the mindset of wanting to cause a ruckus.
You're at work.
Yeah.
There's no getting away from it. You're at work. And you want to do a good job whilst you're at work. So you wouldn't... I mean...
You wouldn't poke the bear.
You wouldn't, yeah. Because...
Some have.
Because of discipline and respect. Some have, yeah, some do. But there are jokes that are not appropriate for television that happen. We're all adults.
On the cuff, we just sort of go, oh.
And you say things sometimes. As a puppeteer anyway, with a puppet character, I find that you say things sometimes and then you think, or you say... I can't believe I just said that. And then you'll instantly say, well, it wasn't me, it was the puppet.
Yeah. Which does work 90% of the time.
Which kind of works. You get away with it. It won't now that this is out there. But yeah, I don't think... I mean, I had a slip a couple of times where I said things I shouldn't have, but nothing awful.
No, it's
more getting things wrong is the issue.
It's a curse of the live environment as well as
like
if someone slips
and then thinking, we can't stop and do that again. Just carry on.
Yeah.
Pretend it didn't happen. Just say it again. There was one point where I was on a Dodge and with Dick and Dom, and I think Dodge did a week with Dick and Dom. I think that was a turning
Dick, Dom, and Dodge.
Yeah, that was a turning point for Dodge's character actually when we did that whole week. And we went live and. I was saying, Rich, and he just wasn't paying any attention. And I said, Rich, and I'm like, why is he ignoring me? I'm like, oh no, because that's not his on-screen name.
Yeah.
It's Dick.
Yeah. But at the same time, knowing those two, he wanted Dodge to say the word Dick.
Yeah.
That's why. Because that's his name, to reiterate that word.
Because I had been,
just
seconds before, we'd been talking and calling him Rich, and, that's his name.
Yeah.
That's his real name.
And then they do refer to themselves sometimes as Dominic and Rich in content, but it's again that live environment. He knows full well why he's not replying.
Yeah. But that mortified me.
Because it's not rude,
but it mortified me to be saying the wrong thing. I don't like to say the wrong thing on air.
They are a force to be reckoned with when you get into a live environment with them. I don't think they'll ever try and do anything like he would not have been doing that to make you feel feel off your game or bad.
Look, I know what they're like.
You
never know what's going to happen next. But
yeah,
I never once felt uncomfortable with them during that whole week because before that I was like,
you're never in danger with them.
Are they gonna push the boundaries with the puppet? They never did.
I think the gallery get frightened.
The gallery get frightened, but I always felt as safe as houses with them. Yeah. I felt like these are my people.
Yeah, these are my peeps.
And like I said, I feel like Dodge had a massive growth spurt during that week in personality, and he evolved.
Also, the live environment provides its own obstacles as well that don't necessarily result in inappropriate or near fireable behaviour, but there are times where you have to sort of vamp and you freak yourself out a little. Yeah. And it feels like it happens on stage as well, but where it feels horrible as it's happening.
Yeah.
But then you look back at it and you go, it was only 20 seconds and it's actually okay.
Yeah. You were saying that time when the Pro Arthur fell off air, which means it stopped running, and you had to fill for 11 minutes.
You were saying this just before we recorded. You went, do you remember that time? And I was like, oh my god, yeah. And we were in character. It was a Confrontation Street spin-off morning or something.
And we didn't know how long we'd have to fill. Basically, they had to take the tape out, unspool the tape, put a new tape in.
And this is back in London as well. This is happening in a place called White City in London. Going through our gallery in Salford, and we're there, suddenly hearing, okay, so White City have been in touch. There's been a problem that's going to take at least 5 minutes. We're going to try and get it done quicker, though. Can you just keep going? As we were building up to the natural conclusion of send those in and we'll talk to you after this.
So we did all the business of send us some pictures in and we'll read them out and letters and stuff.
And you suddenly hear this prompt.
Run out of stuff to do. There's only so much you can be prepared. So what we did was we started to act as a QVC channel and sell the stuff that was behind us.
We did. Whoever was on Vision Ops that morning is really quickly getting one of the cameras zoomed into this thing, so they're just playing along and making it work. I think the important thing in those environments is to acknowledge something's gone wrong, and run with it.
But you can't underestimate, like you just said, the support of the people in the gallery.
Yeah,
the sound man, the vision mixer.
They're on it.
The director, the producer. You can't. Everybody's with you, so you are safe actually. As long as you're competent at your job, they'll follow along with you. I also remember the PS on that one was it then finally they started playing a Dick and Dom Diaries episode instead. And about 5 seconds in, we got someone buzzed up to the gallery, and the gallery said, like, your mics are still on. So we just started doing audio commentary in character to the episode. The show, So this is so weird. We could have the moment it went to vision, we could have just gone like, oh, yeah. So it's a good job that we're on it, I suppose. Yeah. And finally, this one comes in from my friend and yours. Dear listener and dear Warrick, Sophie McCoy, who we worked with on numerous projects over the years. Many a year. Lovely Sophie says, if you had to look at your CV and pick one show off of it that would be the only thing you could puppeteer on forevermore, what would it be and why? Well, so you got to kill your darlings in this one. Here's the answer. The CBeebies House isn't a show. No, okay. But I would choose that. Oh, okay. Dodge. I thought you were about to save it by saying it's not a show, so I'm not technically not picking it. Well, I would pick it, but it's not a show, so I can't. That's true. So Sesame Street would be the show. Yeah. Because I have a character there, Gonger. I've always loved Sesame Street. I've always wanted to make it to Sesame Street. Mm. And to be there, to legitimately be there as a character, for me is just like off the charts. Dude, you did it. Yeah. 6-year-old was, did it? So I can close up now. You got there. Close up shot. After this, I'll just take you out back like all yellow and we end it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'm going to have to get you back for another one. There's so many more stories I want to tell. I've enjoyed this much more than I thought I would. It's weird, isn't it? I know that's a weird thing for me to say. Like, it's weird to have fun, but like it's yourself and Phil, and I'm assuming Ed, because we've not recorded that one yet, but I'm assuming Ed. You guys, this isn't really your bag, but we're not seeing. We don't do this kind of thing. Or in Ed's case, like you say, it's more of a performance kind of thing. But like, you guys have stories to tell, and I'm so happy that you've chosen to tell them. For the listeners out there, these aren't all the stories, and they will be available in the book. Yes, the book. Oh god, can you imagine? Oh my god, let's get crowdfunding on that one now. You can shoot it on your iPhone. Shoot a trailer for it on iPhone at a food truck at Media City. We'll get it made. So for all those out there listening, where can they find you? Where can they see you? Where can they hear you? Where can they look at a thing and go, oh, I think that's Warrick making that move? Okay, well, currently you can see me as Dodge on the CBeebies channel in the CBeebies House. You can soon see some new Ed and Oucho videos, which will drop sometime in September. Keep them peeled, people. On YouTube. Very exciting. And you can see me in The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, which is the new Netflix series. That will drop on Netflix on August the 30th, 2019. So if you've not already watched it, hurry up and watch it, please. And do remember, you won't actually see me. Yeah. I'll be performing puppets in these shows. But you can see his names in the credits. You'll be like, oh, that's Warrick. There he is. Hopefully. They better put you in the credits. And if you want to find me online, you can go to my website, which is www.brownlow-pike.co.uk. Or you can find me at social media, simply at WarrickBP. He's on it, folks. He's on it, he's under it, he's in it. I hadn't rehearsed that. They hadn't at all. That wasn't the third take at all. Warrick, thank you so much for joining me. And thank you muchly, all of you out there for listening to Out the Broom Cupboard. Is me again with some other info and credits and all that stuff. See you later, bye. Say bye, Dodge. Bye, Dodge. Oh.
Out of the Broom Cupboard is a podcast hosted by and produced by Christopher Yonko Johnson. This month's guest was Warrick Brownlow-Pike, Puppeteer, Talking Dog, and Cantankerous Cactus. The theme music is Breaktime by Incompetech, owned by Kevin MacLeod. And you can donate to the show, supporting it and helping fund future episodes and recording facilities and the eventual live incarnation by going to patreon.com/OOTBC. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.